Hello there. Um, Hopefully somebody will join me soon. I'm talking to myself, aren't I? I do that all the time, though. It's lovely to be here. It's Tuesday, the 7th of January, and so I'm a week into 2025. Not that the changeover of calendar particularly bothers me in one way or another, it's just another day, but I'm a bit strange like that. But I thought, while I've got some energy today, I thought it might be time to come and draw and just see what happens. I've got some stuff to show you and some things to talk about, but I'll do that later on in the video. But what I've got here is I've got two pieces of A5 paper. This is Fabriano mixed media paper that I've coloured with distress inks, and I want to try something with them. Kind of. I know what works. Like, I'm getting myself into a right pickle, and in some ways, I ought to show you what I've been doing in order to explain this, but perhaps I ought to do this and show you afterwards. That sounds like a plan. Maybe. So I'm going to choose. Do I choose the sunsetty one or the sunrise, depending on your point of view? Not sure whether there's different colours at sunrise, sunset. Sure, there must be. Or the greeny, yellowy green going into blue. Let's do that one. I do like the distress inks. I'll tell you why. I have found that I've been doing large drawings for a purpose, and I've had to do backgrounds behind various elements, and I've been using alcohol markers in some things. I like alcohol markers, but I find it so difficult when you haven't got that intermediate colour to blend them. No matter what I do, no matter what advice I follow, you need that colour that's in between to really get them. I know I've got chameleon pens, but they aren't the colours I wanted to use. And I then swapped to watercolour markers and watercolour pencils. I don't like watercolour pencils. I like them, but not to produce intense colour because you end up with this waxy, filmy colour over black lines. And that's annoying to me. So I came up with a drawing I did. I created the sky in a kind of mosaic fashion. So it meant to look like a mosaic or stained glass, where the colours of blue were slightly different or can be slightly different in there to detract from the mess I made, as well as the mess I made of letting colour run into individual bits, going, oh no, and then trying to clean it up and making a bigger mess. I'll never learn. I really don't know why I use things like this. Anyway, I've often said digital colouring is the way. But I want to try this out, both with colours and designs. I'm so tempted to do something that I've been doing. And I think the best way, because I've got a couple of people here who'll be thinking I'm wittering on about nothing much, is I am going to show you. So excuse me for a moment. Una momento. Right. This is these are two pieces of work that I've been working on, my typical Angela style things. I don't like the mixture of colours in this one. I've got no idea what on earth possessed me to put these colours together. It may be better when it's finished, but for now, it's to one side. What's more valuable to me, though, is the interesting shapes and forms that appeared in this. This one appeals to me far more. So basically monochrome, using just two colours of alcohol marker, both sort of mossy, yellowy greens. And I just prefer that. I do want to put some splashes of colour in. I think I'm going to use reddy orange. That's one thing. The other story, which is where I'm going, is that I've got my niece's kids. I'm not, they're all nieces and nephews. This is where it'll get complicated. So I'll say the twins. She's got 7-year-old twins as well as a teenager. And the twins are both autistic. And one of them, Heidi, loves to draw. And although her hand-eye muscle coordination isn't the best still, her imagination is fantastic. And so I went over there last week after sitting beside her the weekend before. and watching her draw, and she was showing me things and what have you, and the pure joy and delight she had. So I went over there because her characters she draws are very much like my creepy cute characters. And I sat there, she sat next to me. I started drawing, she looked intently in what I was doing, and I mean intently, well focused, and then she'd go and she'd draw her own version of it. Not a direct copy. She'd change it to what she wanted it to be. And then when I drew something else, she'd look over, and if I'd moved on from something, if I covered it with my hand, she'd push my hand out the way so she could see, and she'd take inspiration from that, and I'd see what she was doing and take inspiration from that. So this was a page of what I drew with her. Things like this are all her. Sort of giraffes and weird cats and things are mine, and some of them are a combination of both of us. Uh, I gave her some watercolor marker pens, watercolor brush pens, um, and she grabbed my Sakura um, Micron PM pen and a Uniball Eye fine pen. And she'd been drawing these broad Crayola markers before, and she had these, and it took her a moment or two, but when she started drawing with them, the change in her drawing, the precision, obviously, was amazing. So there was that and the colours. So she added colour here and tried a water brush out to spread the colours. She did it there. I'd actually coloured that in, and shade these are all shaded with, which is the reason I'm coming to this, is that these watercolour markers, I these ones that she had were the Sakura koi ones. I've got Ecoline and Karin brush marker pros here, and they all work in the same way, and they're all intensely pigmented. They've got a lot of colour in them, unless they're a pale colour, because then they're going to be pale. But you know what I mean, hopefully. So I did some more. This is more drawing I did with her. She doesn't like flowers. She didn't like flowers. She liked the shark and the jellyfish and other things. And rainbow clouds. She draws those, and she's done characters like that. And one of my niece is called Claudius. Um, have I got Eric there? No, Eric's not on this one, which is another story. So I came home and I can't find the first one I did. No, I do know where they are. I gifted them to my niece. Except I can't find my 2025 one I did with Eric on. I've put them so safe along with a drawing I've done that somebody has bought. I can't find them. I've put them so safe, I don't know where I've put them. They will turn up, it's just I'm in a flap and a panic, and that's not sensible. But this is one I did, and I started with the watercolor pencils at the bottom, and from here on up, I used Carin and Ecoline brush markers, watercolor brush markers. And I prefer the colours as well. They're much brighter than the watercolor pencils. It's just the nature of the medium, and they make me smile. And I realised as my niece is there getting all happy and joyful and, um, you know, getting so pleased with what she's done, the feeling I was getting was echoing all of that. So I want to do things like this. A lot of the inspirations come from her, some not. She's looked at these, she's had photographs sent through, and I've had photographs of her latest stuff back and forth. And it's almost like a collaboration. Hello, Patty. It's lovely to have you here. And I'm fessing up, if you hadn't guessed already, that I'm autistic as well. And it's a wonderful thing when you've got two joyful people together like that who don't need to talk. She's not verbal particularly at the moment. She does say some things, but you can have that shared experience, which has taught me about myself and has also helped her learn, have the tools to express herself more fluently or more precisely than what she's had before. And I'm so pleased about that. I'm looking forward to another evening or afternoon with her soon. I've said I'll do it regularly. I've got to work out how to involve or do something that will involve her brother, who is doesn't enjoy drawing, so it's a bit more of a challenge for me, and her niece, who's those are The older one, the teenager, although she's a teenager, she does like, the company of her mum and me. So this is the one where the background here went you might be able to see all the different colours and the patchiness of it. It wasn't smooth and where I've spilled into things. But I look on this as a learning experience. So I've created it as if it's like mosaicked or cracked into pieces. The bottom one was meant to be all indigo blue, but it was all patchy again. So I went over the top with a pattern with black pen, and now it just looks like textured black, which is fine by me. I haven't quite finished yet. I've put some white highlights on, and in some places I've added hatching, cross hatching to add shadow, but I haven't really worked out how I want to do. Oh, by the way, don't know if you can see these. These are known as dancing jelly bums. This is one of my little niece's favourite things to draw, and they cut my niece, my older sister, said, "She actually draws dancing jelly beans." And I said, "No, she's drawing them with their bottoms sticking out. They're dancing jelly buns." So that's now what they are known as. So my thinking is, I'm sure I've said this before, but I forget about things as well. This was a disaster, in my opinion. It's not what I wanted. I wanted something as smooth as I could get with alcohol markers. The alternative is I use alcohol markers just for the background bits, which is possible. The only problem is I've got another drawing on the other side, but that's not an issue. These I did with watercolor paints. I just can't get the intensity of color. And I think that's why watercolor can vex me at times, because I think I use too much water and not enough paint, but I'll work on that. Um, so it may be that I can do both things, or perhaps the only way for me to go is to digital. So what I thought I'd do is I'm going to choose a character, and I'm going to place it somewhere on here, and then just to keep everybody happy and myself, it'd be time for sort of Zentangly kinds of patterns in a different kind of way, just to enhance this differently. So I am going to use a pencil just to sketch this out. This is no zero point 0.5 lead in this, and it's a Tombow monograph um, mechanical pencil, but any pencil will do. And somewhere, I think I'll put it in the bottom third-ish, because then I've got the opportunity to put a ground. Actually, it won't need it actually. But I really like, I can't see what I'm drawing on this kind of crescent shape, crescent moon shaped creature. And for some reason, this one has to have 3 legs. And as I draw it in ink, you'll see it a lot better. We're going to have wings, which I think I will make go out to the edge of the page and perhaps a little bit out. Okay, I've got that one. I can adjust these as I redraw them. And I'll just make a start on adding this one in. I am going to use a Uniball eye fine pen. I find these, once they're fully dry, don't mix or don't get shifted by water. The Sakura Pigma microns and the senseis do tend to, um, even with a bit of a. So this line is going to be quite a bit bolder than perhaps you're used to, but I really want my character to stand out. So that's the basic shape. And then for the wings, I'm just doing like an S shape that goes out and outside my border here. And then I'm going to come back and draw the feathers gradually curving back towards the body. As I say, this may not be something you're interested in drawing particularly. There are skills and tips and things. that she can make use of and bring out and things. And I've got 3 legs. Why 3? Why not is the answer. So I have them like they're floating in air, and I am going to put some little shoes or little feet on or something like that. Later on, I'll add some details to that. We need a mouth, so I think I'm going to put a nice smiley face on, but I think we'll have some nicely cute tufts, teeths sticking out. And for eyes, 3 legs. How about 3 eyes? 2 wings, 2 teeth, 2 horns, 3 legs, 3 eyes. Sounds reasonable to me. Very, very simple, very childlike, but I love it. There's a child in all of us, and the secret is to let that child play quite often and to give them the permission to do so. So many of us are given the wrong messages about ourselves when we're little, and we carry them into adulthood, and it can take a lifetime, if ever, to undo the limitations those messages have put upon us about the way we think about ourselves, what we believe we can do. And so, if we can let that inner child out to play, it's all good fun. I want stripy stockings or long socks or whatever on these. Now, there is a reason I wanted to. Okay, couple more stripes on that one. Does it matter? Not one bit. There's a reason I want to do this because I want to come in and add some colour. The wings are just a bit different, but does that matter? Just filled in a slightly different way. That's okay. It's fine. That one looks a bit crushed, but you know. And do I want anything else on this one? Do I want horns or anything? No, let's give him some. I say him, it feels like a him. This is not Eric. Eric is different creature altogether. And very chameleon-like in many ways, shape-shifting from one thing to another. So that is my creature. And I just want to build something that helps to separate perhaps him from the rest of this in some ways. Because I just think that would be useful here. So I do want to leave some empty space around him. So I want to come up with some ways to just section these off so I can add more of my usual kinds of tangle patterns. Now, I don't know whether this is even going to work. Hello, Gail. Hello to you as well. Kisses from Wales. Okay, so a funny character. Okay, the top isn't so bad, but what can I have here? I do want some things growing out from the clouds, so I'm going to go with sort of like nested arcs. They look like little rainbows. Well, very little rainbows. They've only got, a couple of colours each, but that's fine. We can live with that, can't we? So I'm drawing them quite big because I don't want it to get too fussy too close because then we'll lose that separation, I fear. I could be wrong, but I'll just do one over here then that goes up to the edge of my paper. And I'm just going to draw that edge in because I don't want to put anything underneath his wings. I want his wings nice and clear. The only things I may put there are some stars or something else. Okay. And I'm just going to add another layer or so, or little bits of this. So it kind of looks kind of cloudy in its way, puffy like my clouds are. Oh, I'm not being very good here. It's fine. I'm going, no, Angela, you don't have to be perfect. This is an experiment. I'm doing something a bit different with you and sharing the joy, hopefully, that I gained from that time with my little niece. Well, she's actually my great great niece, which is scary to say because it makes me sound terribly old. But it's also um, far too complicated because then I'd have to explain my family relationships. So, and they are complicated. It's it's a mess in many ways. No, I like that. I like the way that finishes with like a little point, and I think I'd like this one here just to do the same. So that's really quite nice. I am going to just pop in the rest of this border down here. My pen is also a bit broader than it would normally be because I've added distress inks to the paper. And whatever there's something in the formulation of distress inks that makes the paper a little bit more absorbent until it's been left to dry or dried with a heat gun. I didn't want to dry it with a heat gun because it would cause the paper to curl. And I did this not long before I went live. So got this. I like clouds that have spirals in them. So I'm choosing places where I've got a line I can launch myself from and draw a nice little spiral. I'm not going to do it on everyone because that gets just a bit too much, but I'm looking where I might need one. I think I might put one on that side, and that's fine. That feels about right to me. And it may be that at a later time I come back once these have been coloured in and add details on the top like white gel pen spirals or whatever. Oh, I was saying about this. So I'm testing this to see how much the distress inks will affect the colours of the watercolour markers. But I want to draw something to do that with. I could just do it anyway. I could have coloured just half of this and tested colours across. That'd be pretty boring. Drawing's far more fun. So I've had a busy day. I started off with my first Welsh class of the year this morning. Then this afternoon, after I'd had a bit of a sit down and a think, and I'd finished the drawing I showed you off, the one I was adding colour to, I then decided to put together a clothes horse or drying rack for clothes that I'd bought a number of weeks ago and just hadn't got round to doing. So I thought, I'll do that now. I'll listen to something on the television or whatever, get this done downstairs without thinking that I'd have to take it upstairs because my bathroom's big and that's where I tend to put clothes to dry because they dry very quickly in there. It's always warm in there for one reason or another. Even when the heating's not on, it's warm in there. And so I did all of this. Got confused at one point. I had to take everything I'd done apart to put it back together again to find out I'd done it right anyway, more or less. Yeah. So I laughed there going, oh, sheesh. It's like I'm not daft. When it comes to practical things, I'm a nightmare. So I did all of this. I got it all together, got everything working, only lost one cap for one screw, and I put that screw in a place where it wasn't essential. It wasn't going to cause everything to collapse. And I will get a little cap or a little nut for it at some time. Or it will turn up. It flew away under furniture somewhere. I wasn't going to shift all of that out. And then I thought, okay, I'll take it up. Actually, it's not too heavy. Got about the size of it. Because to get it up the stairs, I had to get it under the ceiling that sticks out still a long part of the stair, and then up and around a corner. And my stairs are quite narrow and they're quite steep. And the flappy things I put on the side were flapping around. And I did stop and think at one point, should I not put these on till I've got it upstairs? I thought, no, I'll be fine. No, I wasn't. And then I couldn't get it far enough up the stairs to be able to turn it round the corner at the top. So I had to put it over the top, which I managed to do eventually. It was a lot of turning the air blue with my language. And it ended up upside down, so I then had to move it upside down into the bathroom and turn it the right way up. And when I'd done that, I'd had enough. I visited the loo, I went downstairs, got myself a big glass of water, sat down and went, "Oh, dear God." That took me nearly 2 hours alone. The thought of having to take it apart, carrying everything upstairs and going through the same process, put it all together, making the same mistakes, because I will. Even if I've got instructions to follow in front of me with pictures, I still do it wrong. Just filled me with horror. I'm just you're just thinking, "Oh, no." So, I did that, and then I decided to come and do a live stream in case I'm just too tired tomorrow to do anything, um, because I will have shattered myself. Anyway, I'm talking, not drawing. So sometimes I think, why do I do these things? But I do. Um, tell you what I'm going to do here. Somebody did ask a little while ago how I did some weird kinds of patterns, and I think I want things that are growing up here, as in growing upwards, not as in becoming like teenagers, though these ones could potentially be teenagery. So I'm drawing things that are like this, kind of, but instead of drawing them all the way back down to the bottom, I'm actually going to start kind of nesting them together in some way so they become one kind of structure. But then I'm going to look for places where I can have some perhaps growing, starting somewhere else and then growing off at a different angle, because things like this are always fun. And I think this goes with the random cuteness and weirdness of this drawing, because it is going to be random and cute and weird. Hopefully something that's enjoyable. I have my moments of sheer downright craziness. So this one, I just decided that I'd want to have this one curling upwards like this, because it just seems like a good thing to do. Because, well, why not? So hard to explain what to do, it's easy to show it. And this isn't exactly like the one that I drew a few weeks ago now. It's my memory of what I did. I did find it in a folder I put things in when I was hunting down a drawing I did, and um, also a drawing I've sold. I need to send it off to somebody. I haven't been paid for it yet. I've got to find out the postage and packing, and I've put that somewhere so safe I can't find it. I hope that person's not watching. I'm so sorry. I will find it. It will come to me where I've put it safe, but it's not at the moment. So worst comes to the worst, I'll have to redraw it, which isn't a problem really. It's just annoying, and it'll never be the same twice. But It's quite nice sometimes to have these all kind of coming together in some way, almost like a knot in a tree trunk, but where they all seem to stem from or grow from a common point. It is meant to be a bit alienish, or just plain weird, warped, mutant. I mean, for goodness sakes, how could you have anything normal? You've got something like that drawn there. Who knows? Said I know this isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I'm not entirely sure it's my cup of tea, to be honest with you. I just wanted to see if different things can work. I'm not entirely sure they will. But if you don't do things, you'll never find out, will you? And not every experiment in art or adventure in art is necessarily going to be a greatly successful one. There's always pitfalls along the way. And that's what makes giving yourself permission to have a go, see what happens, and learn from the outcomes so important. Because if you don't do that, you're never going to learn anything in many ways. You just trundle along doing the same thing and not expanding yourself in so many ways, I suppose. Doesn't mean that you have to change exactly what you do, but it just means about all those tweaks that come with practice and experimentation that make artwork. Well, you find ways you love to express yourself. And I'm sorry, creepy cute characters are one. Though I wish I'd drawn that one just a little bit smaller now, but it is what it is. So I'm just getting things just growing off at all kinds of weirdly wonderful angles and just creating places where they come together and create interesting patterns and ripples almost. Ooh, that gained a second one of those. That's fine. It happens. That there needs one as well. Just add some inky glue just to fill in the dark bits. And it's almost like these are disjointed, so I feel I need something that will link them together, and I think the best way of doing that is going to link them in this kind of way, perhaps, where we just form a funny little knot or connection there, which seems to work quite nicely. There's always opportunities to make things grow. This is quite nice because I've got these little spaces, which is going to be useful for me. Above this, and I'm just going to ink this in, and I'm going to put a star shape in pencil in, a nice big star. So 5 lines, like a bit like an asterisk, but without so many lines. You could put as many lines as you like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some very pointy fingers of this star. Like so. It's a bit wonky, but that's fine. Wonky stars are fine. Honest, we're allowed wonky stars. And then I'm going to fill the space between the arms of the star in with the Zentangle pattern betweed, because it makes an interesting pattern but it also helps to round this shape in an interesting way. So I'm always starting with the first line coming from the left-hand side. I'm not sure if it makes much difference, but it just feels right to me that I repeat this in the same way. It ends up looking a bit more like a weird sea urchin, but that star shape is so important there. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to make that. If I want to make it yellow, how I'm going to do that with water-soluble media. It all depends on how much of this colour there is. It looks quite there's quite a lot. Then who's to say that all stars have to be yellow? We're in this critter's world now, and they may have a different idea of what colour stars are. Because there are many different coloured stars in the universe. Our own star, Sol, the sun, is a mediocre yellow star. Nothing special about it. But you've got red giants, white dwarfs, brown dwarfs, the stars that are greenish, all colours you can think of just about that we know of so far. And I say so far. So that's quite interesting. And I'm going to just add an aura around it. And I do want something happening with this to sort of fill the rest of the space up. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some wavy lines. Aren't copying each other, they're just random lines in one way or another. I'm not going to put any below his wings in any kind of way. I think I do want one here, so that one is most probably going to go off there, which is perfect. And then I'm going to use the top of him, this character, just to add some other lines going vertical-ish. So we are just splitting this space up in many ways in a crazy kind of way. And there is some kind of method in my madness here, I think. Because what I'm thinking of, I mentioned about doing swatches with these colours. And I'm thinking this could be a fun way of doing that. And I also want some lines that cross over to make smaller spaces. So this isn't too boxy, if you know what I mean. So I've got some interesting ways that these cross and it split up, I think is what I'm trying to say here. So we've got wavy lines going in every which way, just about. That's quite a big space there, so I think I can go there. Got kind of star shape there, that's fine though. We'll add one on the other side just to make them match, kind of, deliberateness. There, so I've got plenty of space there. So I said this was just a bit of an experiment now then. I'm going to make some rattling noises because I have this big caddy here that's going to go to one side of me, where I have some water brushes as well as clear colourless blenders and so on, because I want to see how colours will react with this distress ink. And I would like my character to be yellow. So I'm going to start by adding this really bright yellow to his horns, as it were. My niece loves to draw these with critters, creatures sitting on the top of them. almost riding them like a steed, which is quite funny. But we've just got him with weird hair. Right, okay, stay. So I'm now just going to use a water pen, hopefully, brush or water brush pen, just to wet that ink again, just to start getting it moving. And as it does that, as I do this, the distress ink will also move and will mix with it. And it's actually not too bad a yellow. I mean, it's not as obviously yellow as perhaps I would have had, but I'm okay with it. So I'm pleased with that. And what I do want, I'm doing this because I don't want harsh edges. I want to soften them and blend them out. I'm only using the one colour here because this is mixed media paper, but I may just look for a pale orange, gold ochre. That might work. Yeah, it does. It says gold ochre. It is a brownish colour. I'm just going to put some of this around the outer edge just to add some shading because it will spread with the water that's there, but I can go back and help it along where it's dried a little bit. And the paper is beginning to pill a little bit, but hey ho. Mixed media paper isn't the best. This mixed media paper obviously isn't the best. Mixed media paper I drew on was that I showed you the drawing on, inspired by my niece's work, collaboration with my niece, who did get to say about colours and everything. Not in that one, but in the other one. Was the one she got to say the colours, and I actually used alcohol markers for. Right, I need some. Go. Some tissue just to clear my brush off. So that's still quite bright yellow. There's a hint of green on it, but I'm quite pleased with that. The wings are going to be interesting because I think I would like pinkish wings. So I've got pale pink. No, let's go magenta. Let's really give this a test, is it? So I'm just going to put this on the bottom edges of these wings, like so. And before they have much of a chance to dry in, so I'm putting wherever I want the shadows to be, I'm going to go back and just, yeah, I've picked some of the yellow up and moved it there now. Pick some of the pink up and just dissolve it, but move it so that I'm getting paler pink towards the top. And how much is this pink affected by the green? Not a lot. So I am learning I can use distress inks with these and it won't affect the colours too much. If anything, that little hint of colour will unify the colours on the piece. There we are. Because pink and green really should make a yucky colour. But I said there's not a lot of distress ink comes off. Or this correction. There's not a lot of distress ink needed to make this colour. So there's not a lot on the paper. So when it does mix with other colours, there's not a huge difference, it seems. There is a subtle difference, but not a huge one. So yes, definitely pink wings required here. All a bit crazy. This is never going to be finished, what I'm doing here. It's going to be something I'm going to write notes on. I've really got to start collecting all of these things together. So I've got a reference book of do's and don'ts. Angela, don't do this. Angela, do that. Just to see. Okay. You see there where the pink has bled into. I can find my doofer. I'll zoom in. So I think the zoom in is, oh, look, the zoom in is working. Some of the pinks just bled into the yellow there because it was still damp. And some of the yellow is looking particularly yucky. I think it is what it is. But it gives an interesting texture there that I could work with. So there are some downsides by the looks on this. But, do you know, I'm not going to worry too much because this is on the mixed media paper rather than watercolour paper or Canson XL mixed media paper that I was using. And I managed to pick some of it up. There we go. I've managed to get some of the yellow in the eyes, which is fine. So I'm going to go back and use some blue. Green. Have a look. I've got that as a blue. So I think blue eyes would look good against that bright yellow. This is a Karin brush marker that I'm using now rather than an Ecoline. And yeah, it's picking up some of the yellow, but that's fine. So I'm getting little green patches, but I'll end up getting the same kind of thing in each one of these. So it should be fine. And a little bit variation's fine. Our eyes are varied between us anyway. My eyes are weird. They're sort of like hazily green mostly, and then I've got wedges, and one eye's half sort of like brown, the other eye's just got a wedge of dark brown in it. Apparently, I've got mutant eyes, according to somebody I knew a while ago, a good long while ago. Yeah, his teeth. Hmm. What am I doing putting things upside down? His teeth are a funny thing because you do want some shadow on them, but you have to choose the right kind of colour for shadowing. Don't want blush, don't want a yellow. I do want some, it's either brown or grey. Warm grey would be good. It's a cool grey. That's a warm grey. And this one will be just a little bit too dark as it goes on, but I think it'll be okay once it dries. And I'm also going to use that just to put some shadow around my eyes. I've got some blue leaking out as well. It's what happens when your water pen is giving out too much ink. Leave the others as they are, just scribbled on myself, which is pretty usual. Okay, I'll leave everything else because I can see that those colours will work. This is a much deeper colour. So let me just try a yellow again. I can't remember what colour I used there, but I'm going to use deep yellow again. I think it was a deep yellow. Looks like it. See how this fares now. One thing I'm going to make sure I do is I'm just going to clean the tip of this pen off because it does pick up some of that distress ink. I think it's pilling the paper more because the distress inks have affected the surface. So that's a disadvantage. I've got that. So that's not too bad. Let's try an orange. Oh, this is a lipstick red, apparently. Try that. I wanted to do it in the green. Don't want to put it in. I've said it's an experiment, so I am going to put it next to the pink. I don't find pink and red together a particularly pleasant colour combination. It's just me, though. Just get some water off this. So again, that green hasn't really affected that red, which is good. Done red, yellow, orange. I've got an orange here. This is an amber. That one here. This is a Karin brush marker. Again, I'll remember to just dab the tip just to get rid of any distress ink that was there. And I am going to use some water just to move it, but also perhaps to leave some washed out spots in it or transferring colour from one to another and creating little splotchy bits because that's fun to do. Blues and turquoises are going to work just fine. I've got the turquoise here. It says turquoise green. So that one's perfectly fine. But I am going to do exactly the same with this one as I did with the others. add water so I can get it into all the little nooks and crannies, and perhaps get a lighter patch somewhere. Maybe I'll just pick up some of that yellow and just dot it in as well, just to tie them in. Because then that's deliberate, so anything that isn't deliberate will look fine. That's my theory anyway. I'm not saying that it's a wonderful theory, but it's my theory. And those shadows there are a bit harsh. Just see if water will help them shift. Okay, purples will be fine on this. So let's add some purple. I'm just going to put it right at the top there, and because it's a very strong colour, this one. And let's see how that moves. You can see it looks quite different once it's diluted in many ways, but we've also got the blue underneath of the distress ink, which is perhaps a little bit more visible. I'm going to have those two leading one into another if I can. There we go, because I can. Ugh, browns. Ugh. Browns are not my favourite colours. Colour's this one. This one is mahogany, which is a lovely red brown. Then I'll just put some down and then use the water brush just to drag it out. Right, the Karin brush markers move a lot better on this paper than the Ecoline ones do, but they still move. The other thing you can do with these is they can be sort of like put on a plastic surface and used a bit like ready-made, what do you call it? Watercolor paints. This is reddish brown, so let's do some reddish brown and see what that one's like. What I'm getting from all of this is that there's some dulling down of the colours as they, depending on how they mix with blue. So the yellow isn't as vibrant a yellow as I know that particular yellow to be. And you can see around the edge where it's dried, it's gone quite dark. Perhaps the blue is pooling on the edges where we've moved it to. This is me just thinking out loud, obviously. Let's try a paler colour. What's this one? Rosewood. I don't think it's that. Oh, it is quite pale. So that has just created a greenish colour, which is fine. This one is blush. So again, paler ones are just getting overshadowed or mixed in with that blue. There's enough of the blue there to change their colours because that blush is this kind of colour. It's a little bit darker than that kind of colour. This one is soft peach. Number 2. There's 2 soft peaches in the set. So that one is a bit different from the peach. The blue has mixed with it. It's not unexpected, is it? Because they're all water soluble. Yeah. Just add some water to this one. It really is green, that one, whichever it was now. So I think I've answered my question. Is that yes, distress inks underneath create an interesting background, but with water soluble markers, they are going to create different colours and different effects. I've got a lot of very dark, smudgy stuff in the colour here where it's dried. I don't like that. So distress inks aren't the way for me to go with backgrounds. I think the best way for me to do backgrounds is likely to be alcohol markers, to tell you the truth, because I can use one colour to cover a large area and then use something like coloured gel pens to add patterns and textures to make it interesting, to bring things out. Um, I don't know. I don't know. That's my experiment done. I'm done. I found out the answers and you've seen me I'm gonna say mess up because it is kind of a mess up here in its way, but it's answered questions, and I've done this in a scale that means that I'm not going to feel too worried if I was going to work on a finished artwork, um, to do that. So it's an interesting one. Zentangly work and cute characters in my mind doesn't match, but I had to try it. I had to try it. And so I'm going to finish now. It's been nearly an hour. Next time I'll come back with something far more sensible, but I thought you might like to see what it's. I do experiment, I do try things out. So I do find that my ideas don't work, and that's fine. My biggest problem now is to remember about this. It really is. Or it's to go back to alcohol markers. Hi, Infinite Awareness. You've just popped in as I'm finishing. I said this to other people. Whoever's here has heard it already. This is an experiment. I will show you. So if there's anybody else new here, um, my my youngest, my niece's youngest twin. She's got twins, a boy and a girl. They're 7, I think, and they're autistic. And the girl just loves drawing and loves drawing cartoony characters and creatures, we call them. And I went over there in the week to sit and draw because she'd seen some of my drawing, was really interested in it, photographs I'd sent to my niece. It's complicated. Her mum is my niece, but she's really my great niece, which means that the twins are my great great niece and nephew, and her older daughter is my great great niece. I just can't get my head around that, and I'm not going to try and explain it because it just gets really complicated. So I just call them all my nieces and nephews, my family. And the twins are fantastic. They have complex complex challenges as a result of the autism. And it's time for me to come out and say that I too am autistic, in a different way, but still have challenges that are quite similar to them in some ways, and some some things I'm learning from them. I'm going, oh my God, that's just like me. I do that. And you realise, oh gosh, I've always shown this, but I had my diagnosis just about a year ago, so late diagnosis. And it explains a lot about my life, and I'm proud of it. I'm not ashamed of it. I haven't said it publicly much, although anybody who follows me on Facebook knows I do share an awful lot of memes about autism and neurodivergency because it's relevant. There are people out there, and I've discovered that lots of my very long term friends are also neurodivergent, autistic, and you're thinking, oh, how did we miss that? And they've only recently been diagnosed as well. So because and it's not because autism is on the rise, it's the rate of diagnosis is because the more research is put into autism, particularly with women and girls, the more we recognise there's so many people have been missed over the years. And it's important that people know this. Um, and that, I may share things about it in my art. And if that offends you or upsets you, I'm sorry. Um, I won't do it all the time. But I am who I am. I just have a name for my quirks and weirdness and things like that. The way my mind works, the way that I get the same kind of joy my niece does in drawing. But I feel it differently, but she expresses it with gestures and actions and noises, whereas mine's all internal and I get this big smile in my heart, as I did with this character. So love him or hate him, he's cute. He makes me smile. Even with his 3 eyes, 3 legs, and his bright pink wings. He's fine. Okay? As different as we all are. So I won't harp on about it, but I may mention it from time to time as I discover things because as more and more people are realizing that this may apply to them too, whether it's ADHD, autism, OCD, and so on. There's so many on the neurodivergent spectrum, and they often overlap as well. That it gives answers. It explains things. Well, there we go. Well done, infinite awareness. I didn't know until I decided to do it, but I think it must have been burbling away at the back of my head. I was going to do one yesterday, but I was just so tired. I had a friend visit for a couple of hours yesterday, and it absolutely poleaxed me. So, and I've had Welsh today. I've had the disaster, well, relative disaster, but a success in the end of putting together a washing rack dryer thing for clothes and stuff for my bathroom. And I decided to put it together downstairs, and then I had the challenge of getting it upstairs, because I didn't think about doing it upstairs, did I? No. Downstairs is where I was. Yeah. That's part of my, I never fully think through things. Don't know whether you can actually, but yeah. But I've done snook bits of drawing in or colouring in, um, like this based on both my nieces and my thing. We've been inspiring each other back and forth with all these crazy critters and so on. Some are purely mine. Some some have been inspired by her. Some are basic rip-offs of her, except nobody minds that because she rips off mine as well. And, these critters down here, the dancing jelly bums, as you can see, their bums are all sticking out. Those are definitely from my niece, and I love them. They're so fun. And these are prehistoric ones. They're on an old piece of parchment. No writing with them, but the kind of things you'd find in wall art. Somewhere in this world, there has to be some prehistoric wall art that has dancing jelly bums on it. I'm convinced now. I think even if there isn't, there's going to be now in imagination. But, I wasn't happy with the way my background worked out, but looking at it now, I'm actually quite fine with the mosaic nature and the patchiness compared to the way that the Distress inks have reacted with these water-soluble, brush markers and affected them, made them quite grimy and grotty. So now I understand why Distress inks are called Distress inks when you work with them with other things. But this is one I just tried. I did one in alcohol markers, which my niece has, and that's got Eric. Eric is a favourite character. This is Eric. Up here, this is an Eric. Eric looks like a donut, but he's got arms, sometimes he's got no arms, sometimes he's got like horns there, sometimes he's got no ears, sometimes he's got socks on, sometimes those socks face backwards. And Eric is a fun character, and there's a story about Eric, kind of, because I named him Eric with the first drawing. I said, "Oh, he's an Eric," and my niece came back to me and she said, "Why Eric?" I said, "I don't know, it just came to me. He's Eric." And she said, "My friend has got a little boy who's waiting for his diagnosis of autism. His name is Eric, and he loves Eric that you've drawn." So it just absolutely jelly bums. Yeah, jelly bums. See, the bums are all sticking out as they're dancing jelly bums. And they appear in lots of places. There's a nest of them down there that need to be put in. So Eric has got a friend for real, or has got somebody who loves him for real, his namesake. And no doubt everything else will get named eventually. Um, I do have a Claudius. My niece named a cloudy creation for my niece did. That was Claudius. I think we named another one, but I can't remember what I called it, which is of no use to man, woman, or beast. So, but it will come back to me. And it's just great fun and sharing the imagination back and forth. Fantastic experience, and I know she and I will really enjoy it the next time. So I'm going to leave you with the dancing jelly bums and Eric. And look, there's this one. I love this shape. Um, Never used it for critters before, but obviously I'm going to now. The worms are a classic, and skulls and things. They're an Angela thing. But she might be 7 years old, but that girl's got a dark side to her. She likes to draw lots of blood, and she's fascinated with people who are pregnant and pregnancy. And some of the drawings I've been sent is where she's drawn scans of babies, and she's seen them, and she's made everything dark with the baby inside. And you're just thinking she'll have seen them somewhere once, maybe twice, and she's just clicked onto it and she's using it. So There you go. So I'm going to love you all, and I'm going to leave you, and I will be back again sometime soon. I don't know about tomorrow, it depends how whacked out I am, and I will come back with something a bit more staid, maybe. But, as long as I can find the drawing that I've sold that I've put somewhere so safe I can't find it. I'm panicking about that. It'll turn up, it always does. When you stop looking, that's when you remember where you put it, in my experience. So thank you all for joining me so much. Oh, I haven't got any affiliate links, Infinite Awareness. I've just never got round to it. Part of me thinks perhaps I should, and part of me thinks, nah. But it's they're useful. They work really nicely under alcohol markers. They do change the color, but if you've got that like there's a texture in the color here that shows through the alcohol markers because they are. Thank you, Infinite Awareness. I will, because alcohol markers are transparent, then whatever's underneath will show through unless you use an alcohol marker that's too dark for it to do so. Um, with the watercolor markers, because distress inks are water soluble, that's always going to move. So it's me working out the best way to do this. Part of me wants to try some collage with book papers and things, perhaps have a border of that and draw over it. And it gives me an edge for things to pop out up from underneath and things. So I might do things like that, but I'm not really sure yet. There's just so much to do, and I've got to start putting mandalas together to get a colouring book of mandalas, as requested for years by the colouring book fan page. So that's a job for me. So until I see you all again, so I will see you all again. Crackle paste. I've tried crackle paste and it's never really worked for me. Um, it's not my sort of thing. I like to see it on other things, but it doesn't seem to fit with how I work. Let me just show you something else before I go. This is one I do want to finish adding colour to. I'm going to add orangey reds in places as highlights. This is alcohol marker, and it's just two colours. And it's brought enough highlight and shadow out, and I know I can increase the highlight using a colourless blender because I can put dots in and so on, and I can add darkness by adding dots as well of this same colour because alcohol markers will glaze on top of one another and gradually become darker. And so that's one I want to finish. This one, I've got no idea what on earth possessed me to choose these colours. I say I have trouble with colours. When it's all bright colours and crazy like this, it's not an issue. I just go with it. Sometimes I regret the colour choices I've made, but I just go with it because overall it's bright and colourful. Very bright where I've used the watercolour markers. These are watercolour pencils and not so bright. Um, but I've got some interesting shapes and houses or house-like structures and architecture there that I want to hang on to. I'm really going to have to make time to start storing these things in my visual records, as it were. You know, sort of like my books where I store patterns and shapes and things. I really need a giant one and start again. Maybe we'll see. Anyway, I've been saying I'm going for a while. Um, I just I just love doing this as well. This makes my heart smile, and it's very intuitive, um, automatic, or in some way I just sit and draw. And eyes seem to be a feature in this kind of work for some reason. They've crept in. Even in here, there's one eye, no more. Well, that one could end up being an eye as well. And here we've got something that looks like a person. Don't know where that came from. Possibly I do. But it's working with things and it's working out how cross hatching or hatching using texture lines and textures could work with this as well. It's all part and parcel. I'm still learning. I'll never stop. The only time I'll stop probably as a human is when I drop dead, which hopefully won't be for many, many years to come. But I'm definitely going because I need to have something to eat. I need to settle down so I can go to bed and have a big sleep. So thank you so much, everybody who's stayed with me through this and has enjoyed this. Thank you for those who've given me thumbs up because that means a lot because that was a very different kind of stream with this. As I said, it was just me playing, experimenting, just seeing what happens. And I look forward to seeing you all again. Perhaps something a bit more usual, maybe. I don't know. But I'll see you soon. Look after yourselves and above all else, find time to be creative. Make time to be creative. Bye bye for now. Hoil. Ta-ra.